Hi, I'm Pam, and I'm here to talk about video games. I really never thought I'd be reviewing a Metroidvania that's based on a Christmas Carol, but that's what we're doing today. It's Ebenezer and the Invisible World. Developed by Orbit Studio and Play On Worlds, Ebenezer and the Invisible World was released in November 2023 for PC and consoles. I played this on Xbox Series X with the code provided by the publisher. You play as Ebenezer Scrooge himself. After the events of A Christmas Carol that changed his miserly ways, he can now see ghosts everywhere and is called upon to change the mind and heart of another man, an industrialist whose practices threaten the livelihoods of London workers. You'll need to gather ghostly allies who will grant you new abilities and fight ghostly enemies in order to complete your quest. My first impression of the game was not great. It starts with an incredibly slow and text-heavy scene of dialogue with no voice acting between Scrooge and the ghost who's asking for his help. None of the writing here is particularly compelling, and it just gets off to a slow start. As you start exploring London, the background and environments are quite beautiful, but also each screen is large and rather empty, and Scrooge's movement speed isn't exactly quick. More conversations with characters who have side quests for you await, and none are very interesting. It's not long before you're introduced to the main mechanic of the game, ghost abilities. As you find ghosts and help them, they will join you and give you a new ability. These take two forms. They can give you new movements, like a double jump or the ability to dash forward and ghost through bars. Or you can use some ghosts to attack, which uses your spirit meter. Each of the attack ghosts has a different attack with a different trajectory. Scrooge can also hit enemies with his cane, and doing this refills your spirit meter. There are also a few child ghosts which follow you around. I only found one which was supposed to heal me if I ever had the correct items, which I almost never did, or point out secrets. If it ever did this, I never noticed. Healing items can be dropped by enemies, found in chests, or purchased in the shop. You can also find and equip 4 heirlooms that give bonus effects. These can be anything from collecting gold from range, increasing your damage while you're low on health, or making it more likely for enemies to drop rare items. The items are used for a very simple crafting system. The shop will let you craft some new heirlooms, which cost money as well, and there are 2 NPCs who will increase your maximum health and mana if you give them the right things. The controls in the game are okay. In the beginning, when enemies are fairly spread out and it's not asking too much of you, Scrooge seems pretty responsive with his attacks and backdash ability. However, as things get tougher and more movement abilities are introduced, he somehow starts feeling more clunky. There are 2 animations for any of your movement abilities, one for Scrooge and one for the ghost helping him. This really seemed to slow things down. One move is ostensibly a dash forward, but it's too slow to really use it as a movement boost. Likewise, during the double jump, Scrooge seems to hang in the air. Trying to jump over a large shielded enemy and hit it in the back took so long that the opportunity was almost gone by the time I landed. You can control Scrooge's movements with either the D-pad or the left stick, which I do appreciate. You switch between ghost attacks or healing items with the right stick. As you explore, you can find different canes for your main attack. The one that added a ranged attack was great, though it did make the enemy hitboxes seem a little wonky. It also made the fact that there are destructible lanterns all over the place a real pain in the ass, since my first attack almost always hit one of them instead of what I was aiming for. Some of the enemy designs are cool, they do fit in with 1800s London. You'll be fighting ghosts which look like guards, plague doctors, floating heads with top hats. There isn't much variety from area to area though. While most enemies are not too bad to deal with the right timing, some of them can really pack a wallop and kill you in a hit or two if you're not careful. This is especially evident for ghosts that can disappear and reappear somewhere else. There is a fair amount of variety in the boss fights, both in appearance and their attack patterns. None are terribly difficult, and you can use your healing items to brute force your way through, but I did like these fights for the most part. I did not like the cutscenes before them, which are mostly just dialogue, couldn't be skipped at all. I found the game was at its peak around the middle of its 10 to 12 hour playtime. This is where the environments were the most interesting and the moveset felt the best. The thing Ebenezer most has going for it is its beautiful hand-drawn animations and attractive backgrounds. The art is very nice and different from what you'll see in most Metroidvanias. It has a Christmassy feel without going overboard with it. Likewise, the music feels seasonal, orchestral with frequent jingling of bells without being too much. My favorite area of the game was the London Observatory, which was quite beautiful with celestial objects featured in the background as well as some simple puzzles. The Bedlam area introduces a brand new mechanic. A certain ghost will let Scrooge travel through mirrors, letting him reach new destinations after completing a not overly difficult platforming challenge. Unfortunately, this mechanic gets forgotten once you're done with this area. The London area is also quite gorgeous, though way too spread out, with screens much larger than they need to be and not a whole lot to fill them. The game's map is serviceable. It looks like a bunch of boxes tied together with lines, much like Ender Lilies. In fact, this game has a number of similarities to Ender Lilies. It's not very detailed, but it does show areas where you can't or haven't explored yet, as well as some areas of interest like the shop, saves, and fast travel points. Unfortunately, Ebenezer is weighed down by a number of odd design decisions that just chipped away at my enjoyment of it. This is the kind of game where you need to save at specific points and return there when you die. In some areas, these are annoyingly far apart, causing runbacks that feel way too long. When you die and return to a save point, it's not intuitive what progress is retained. If you find an heirloom or ability, you keep it. However, if you open a chest or buy food items from the shop and die before you save, you lose those. There are also fast travel points, but these two are minimal and too far apart. The game has a ton of side quests which can lead to new ghost abilities, but they really need map markers to let you know where to hand them in when you're done. I ended the game with a number whose objectives were completed, I just never managed to find the quest giver to return to. And given how tedious backtracking was, I wasn't keen to look too hard for them. Some of the UI elements are also lacking. Text is a bit too small and can't be adjusted. In fact, there are hardly any options other than sound levels. You can't even rebind keys. It's also really difficult to tell the difference between your ghost attacks. Each one is represented on screen by an icon with the face of the ghost. The first few of these are all white men with brown hair, mustaches, and hats. Eventually, I got a bald guy or someone with a full beard, but it was not at all easy or intuitive to know what attack I had equipped. And since each attack has a different trajectory or attack pattern, I ended up just wasting most of my spirit energy because I usually had the wrong one selected. When platforming, you can't move the camera at all to see what's below you, and when leaving a screen, you can't be jumping or you'll hit an invisible wall and need to land before you can leave. Just very odd decisions here. Ebenezer and the Invisible World unfortunately isn't a very good game. It has its charms, mostly aesthetic ones, and there are times when the gameplay is fine, but it just never really gets better than that. It's just not quick or responsive enough, and so many of the design decisions made me feel like I was wasting time traversing the map. Unless you really love A Christmas Carol or are looking for a wintry Metroidvania, I can't recommend this one too highly. What did you think? Nothing because you have no brain? No brain, dog. No brain, dog. If you want to see more, check out one of my other Metroidvania reviews here. I have a Patreon if you want to support my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.